My name is Taosheng. I come from China. I have been worked for Filecoin community maybe 4 years ago. I worked for many service providers 2 years ago, and after Filecoin mainnet, I get started from a new startup focused on how to leverage FLD to build a new product for Web3 ecosystems. Today, I will introduce Pando, and it's my honor to take this opportunity to launch the Pando projects to the community. The outline of my presentation is, firstly, I will introduce the Pando, and then I will introduce the Pando use cases. And the next part, I will introduce the roadmap of Pando. And finally, I want to introduce the W3DI club for Pando projects and also for FLD data infrastructures. Is there anybody heard of Pando before? I get started from this project, and then I learned this Pando. Pando is a one-tree forest. Above the ground, it is a forest. But under the ground, there is a vast, huge tree, one root. So it is much like a mercury forest trees, yes, with one root. So Pando is a very good metaphor name of aggregating the huge forest of CAD data. We can call that the CAD forest for tens of data around the Filecoin and over the time. Okay, I want to introduce the Pando from the very beginning. At the very beginning, Pando is a CAD data service. This is 1,000 miles far from Pando, you can see. It is a high-level view of Pando architecture. Not only for Pando, I mean that is Pando in the Filecoin ecosystems. You can see the layers. The bottom layer is Filecoin nodes, and then Filecoin IPFS nodes, and then Pando nodes. And Pando also introduced the SQL capability for these data infrastructures to unlock new opportunities for Web3 DApps. So I will explain the sidechain and the metadata two aspects. From metadata point of view, you can see Filecoin is kind of for code backup, and IPFS is warm storage, and Pando is for hot storage. It's for fast, small capacity, and very expensive. And from sidechain point of view, you can see Pando could be a layer 2 sidechain of Filecoin. But Pando network is a data network. It could be service other layer 2 networks or applications, could be do some data-related innovations. For example, data DOS, and interact with FVM. So that is from 1,000 miles far view of Pando. Okay, why we build Pando? As you know, if we want to build a closed loop of a network, for example, take the Filecoin network as an example, we need to build a feedback. I mean, for example, measurement matrix data network to build a feedback loop for this network. You need to kind of build a matrix or measurement data network for Filecoin, or a set with Filecoin, along with Filecoin. That purpose is to improve the overall Filecoin network reliability. For example, SPs offers storages and retrievals, and any clients could make decisions to choose which one service providers or storage providers or retrieval providers. There is a feedback loop for the clients to capture the experience. But all this measurement data is very big. It's not reach the consensus bar in the global chain, that is the side chain. So that is the scope of the Pando. Okay, I want to introduce the properties of Pando. Firstly, we want to keep the metadata consistently available. And then we will provide lightweight, unbiased access to metadata. And the most important thing is discourage historical revisionism. That means Pando is built over IPL data models, and Pando network could make sure the data in the data store is immutable. You could track the history of the changes of the Pando storage. Okay, how Pando works? From the picture, you can see the Pando works very simple. The first step one is it takes the streams of data, and then step two is the algorithm to the car fares. Actually, the step two will store the stream of data to the Pando, and then aggregate them. And the third step is back them up to the Filecoin. And the fourth step is provide a lightweight query interface for consumers. You can see the inside of Pando is we have a kind of sidechain data structures. We have many snapshots. And these snapshots we refer to the hand data structure. These snapshot chains will make sure Pando data storage is immutable. Okay, I want to quickly go through the interface Pando currently provides. The first one is production interface. That means data providers how data providers could upload the data to Pando. First one, data is formatted as an IPLD tag. And the providers are identified by a libp2p PID. And the providers notify the sidechain service. That means notify the Pando by publishing a message over the gossip sub and advertise the new head of their tag. And the Pando will implement the policy for what data it accepts. For example, we have the rate limiter. And the last part is the regular or interval way of doing this in snapshots. It will build an IPLD tag chain to have a new head to include the new provider data. Another part is access interface. A client can access the interface, access Pando service from three distinct ways. The first one is you can just think of that you can fetch the data directly from Filecoin backup. And the second one is you can find the peer of the Pando service, and then you fetch the IPLD data, leverage the graph sync protocols. And the third method is you can use HTTP endpoints. Okay? Next part, I will introduce the Pando use cases. As I mentioned before, currently Pando service for reputation systems is a feedback loop of Filecoin network. I'm not sure it is clear to see. You can see here. Some data providers, they can test or make some data sampling with storage providers. They get some metrics, and then they store these metrics to Pando, and the other repetition service will get these metrics data and compute this data following some rules, and then store the computation result back to Pando. And then the clients could get the repetition scores from the Pando, and they can do some decision to select the storage providers. So from a high-level point of view, repetition systems and Pando is in the, just like Juan's picture, you can see repetition system is like an out-of-bounds of closed loop of this storage and retrieval. You can leverage this repetition score to select your storage providers and retrieval providers. Scenario 2, what we are doing is we want to onboarding the blockchain state data to IPFS and the Filecoin data lake. The core part of this architecture is Pando data lake. You can see here we have the raw data onboarding, and then we can use some computation layer service to compute the cleaned data zones and generate the processed data zones. And then these data are together stored back to Pando network and the IPFS network. So raw data is not too much valuable compared to cleaned data and the processed data. Okay, next part I want to introduce the Pando roadmap. Currently we are doing a Pando DID following the peer DID specification for Pando service. That is a very important part for Pando, could be also authenticate other peers to store data and fetch data. And currently we launched the Pando MVP. Next step, we will onboarding the repetition data and the blockchain state data. Inside the Pando, there is an IPLD database. That means we will build the indexing layer over the IPLD data models, and then we will build the SQL layers over the indexing. Okay. Regarding the roadmap, I want to firstly introduce the evolution of data infrastructures. As you can see, we have many data infrastructures like data warehouse, data lake, and data lake house, data mesh. The latest phase of data infrastructure evolution is data mesh. The basic principle of data mesh is there is a I want to move to the next slide. There is domain-oriented decentralized data ownership and architecture. And the data as a product, and the service data infrastructure as a platform, and the federated computational governance. That means we can build Pando together with IPFS and Filecoin to build an open data mesh. And then based on these data infrastructures, we can build a self-service computation mesh over that. I think that is the overlap with computation over data working group. So that is the our vision of Pando project. Okay, next part I want to introduce the W3ADI Club. W3ADI is a community for the teams, for the communities, for the developers who are focusing on the data infrastructures, who want to build some applications over Pandos and IPFS, Filecoins, especially IPLD. So welcome to join us. That's all my part. Thank you.
Pando started out being about storing reputation data, and I think we still speak about it quite often with relation to reputation data. Is your vision to go beyond reputation data into all sorts of different like large IPLD trees?
For reputation data, we can follow the same direction with the Pando evolution as build a kind of data lake. That means we can build we can ingest the reputation raw data, and then we can do some computation to generate the reputation metrics, and store back to the Pando, and let any storage providers and the clients to fetch the reputation data. That is, and the most important, I think, is we need to have an IPLD database to store any reputation metrics to leverage the IPLD trees to make it the reputation metrics could be trustable, immutable, and be a reputation is very important for you can't change the data. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? In which case, I can go for one more question.
Okay.
So in your diagrams, you have Pando nodes sitting next to IPFS nodes and Filecoin nodes.
Yes.
How would Pando nodes communicate with each other?
Yes, that's a very good question. Firstly, the Pando nodes, the difference with the Pando nodes and IPFS nodes is Pando nodes has the SQL layer and a graphical query interface, and it also will make the data immutable. The similar things is Pando also built on IPLD data model. So how IPFS nodes could communicate with IPFS nodes, that is, the first thing is very easy. We can use the same graph sync protocols. Any protocols like compatible with IPLD, we can communicate with. That is point one. Another point is we can leverage the S3 service or other service to back up some data to IPFS and Filecoin. That is another way of communication. Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.